So I just watched the UFC 278 press conference, which featured Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards, Paulo Costa, Luke Rockhold, Jose Aldo, and Merab, and it was a very interesting press conference, to say the least. In my opinion, the cringe and awkwardness of Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards, Luke Rockhold, and even Paulo Costa struggling to speak English, combined into one, created a very awkward atmosphere for the press conference. So my main takeaway in a one-word answer from this press conference would be, it was very awkward. Okay, it wasn't even a bad one. Luke Rockhold brought the energy. Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards had some interactions back and forth. Jose Aldo was a legend and everyone respected him. Merab wore a funny hat. It was all there, but it just was awkward the entire time through. And maybe that's just an effect that Luke Rockhold has in every area that he's in. Maybe he just emits that type of energy, and it's sort of impossible to escape. But yeah, it was an interesting one, so I thought I'd react to some of the key moments that went down in a press conference, starting with the main bit of beef that Usman and Edwards had. They were talking about, Edwards was talking about how Usman feels himself too much. He's gone a bit too Hollywood and he's starting to act a bit like Terry Crews. And Kamaru Usman said, if you look like me, you would act like me. But no matter how you look, you ain't wearing a full one-piece green suit. You know what I'm saying? It's just a very... you ain't dressed like the Green Power Ranger no matter how you look. Okay? So that's pretty strange. Even though Luke Rockhold, is also wearing a green blazer, or some very strange style decisions from a lot of these UFC fighters. But either way, Usman had like an NFT of, I think, the Masvidal KO over his neck, around his neck on a necklace, which I think is why he said at the end of the press conference, if Leon does his homework, we're in for a good fight. But if he doesn't, there's a reminder around my neck or on my neck or something like that. So that's why he said that at the end. But other than that, Luke Rockhold brought a lot of energy to Paulo Costa, which was very interesting because Paulo Costa barely understands English and can comprehend it. I mean, even some members of the media that were asking questions, he had to get another opinion from a Portuguese translator just to really understand what was being said. So it's a little bit awkward for him if it's in a massive arena with a crowd and stuff like that. He does a bit better when it's just him and Israel Adesanya at a press conference, because it's a little bit easier for him to sort of understand things. But in a sort of chaotic environment, he wasn't understanding everything. So Rockhold was just going after him over and over again for being dumb, for not being able to speak the language, for saying that his girlfriend controls his entire career, for talking about his cosmetic surgery that he's had done because Paulo Costa called him an old guy and he's too old to be talking like this and all this type of stuff. And Luke Rockhold came back at him with the fact that he had cosmetics done and had the fight delayed and was saying he didn't even want to have this fight. And Luke Rockhold was really bringing a lot of heat into the press conference, and Costa was half understanding him and trying to say something back, but Rockhold is just speaking over him every single time. So it was a bit of an awkward one, but there was some beef, there was some heat, and that's always quite interesting. I find it interesting as well that Luke Rockhold, the guy who went on an SJW savior rant about Marlon Vera being given a luchador mask and how it's disrespectful to other people's cultures, called Paulo Costa, the Brazilian, dumb for not being able to comprehend English well. One time he's standing up for people disrespecting cultures by saying that you shouldn't give Marlon Vera a luchador mask. The next second he's calling someone who doesn't speak English as their first language dumb for not being able to speak English. He doesn't even know what the word energy means and all this type of stuff and whatever he was saying. But that was a pretty interesting moment. But other than that, the shtick is done. Okay, this press conference kind of reminded me of it. It was all such an awkward vibe, and we were trying to get to the bottom of simple answers, and then the schmo comes up there with some really weird questions, trying to break, I'm the different one. I'm the different media member. It's just we get it. You ask different kinds of questions. What Rocky character is Usman, Leon Edwards, if you had to say? It was an interesting question, and Leon actually gave a great response, and it was the best line of the press conference. He said, what's it called? The schmo was listing Rocky characters, and then Edwards said, Adrian, ha 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 ha. And it was he's Adrian from Rocky, and the fact that was the best line tells you all you need to know about the press conference. But you know, that's how it was. The Schmo kept asking weird questions that people didn't really understand, and even Dana White afterwards says, okay, chill, you know how a microphone works, you don't need to shout over here, and we can all hear you, what you're saying. And then the Schmo even brought up Khamzat Chimaev, and how do you feel that Chimaev earned a title shot in 3 fights when you had to do it in 9? I get bringing up Chimaev and trying to get that discussion going, but we all know the reason why he brought it up was to try and create tension between Edwards and Dana White by saying, oh, it's unfair that he got that. And now there's some beef there between them two. Like, he's just trying to poke at Dana White in the press conference, like all media members do, about preferential treatment for Khamzat Chimaev, but he beat Gilbert Burns. So it's one of them things, you know what I mean? But either way, he tried to bring up that, and Leon actually just said, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up. You know what I mean? As soon as he brought it up and brushed off that question. I wish someone would have asked Leon Edwards, like, what do you think about Modja Headfull doing the cartoons about you, and how that's helped sort of get you in this position for a title shot, and how do you feel about the fan base rallying behind you and sort of memeing you into a title shot position to try and force it down the UFC's throat to get you that title shot and stuff like that. But there were no interesting questions like that. There were just weird ones about other stuff. And then it was like Luke Rockhold, angry and evil vibes and being awkward. He even tried to jump in with Leon about Usman doing the Terry Crews stuff, and it was so awkward, but Usman saved it by getting up and doing a bit of a dance, I guess, and that's how that went. And that was so awkward. If Usman just said, no, I'm not doing it, it would have been the most awkward moment at a press conference ever, but that's just how it is. Costa called Luke Rockhold old and then said that he dressed like a teenager and he tries to be young, I think is what he was trying to get at. Teenage, you're teenage, and all this type of stuff. And then Rockhold was mocking him about not being able to speak English and cosmetics and not wanting to fight and all this stuff. And then Rockhold even asked him what his weight was, and Costa just went, fuck you, man, fuck you, I'm not this, fuck you, you know, he barely understands what's going on, so he's just grabbing little bits of words that he understands to even answer questions like that. So that was interesting. I think he's going to make weight because he's the smallest he's ever looked in the build-up to a fight, so it'd be weird if he didn't make weight this time. Rockhold dissing Costa's girlfriend for managing his career. Like, did your girlfriend tell you to say that? All that type of stuff. Costa says he will retire Rockhold this Saturday. We tell Rockhold, you know, we tell him, you know, we tell Rockhold, and all this type of stuff. And mainly Costa's energy was like, keep this energy for Saturday night when we're in the cage together, because you won't keep this energy then. And that was like his stance throughout the entire fight. But I'll tell you this right now. All Paulo Costa had to do, fuck you, man, no chin, man, you glass chin, you no chin. He knows how to say, Paulo Costa look extremely uncomfortable, you know? He knows how to say extremely uncomfortable and all this type of stuff, and agitated and all this type of stuff, but he can't say no chin. Teach him the words of no chin, and he would have won the verbal exchange non-stop. No matter what Rockhold says, hey, shut up, no chin guy, you fucking no chin guy. That's all he had to do, and he would have won in the eyes of the fans. But he didn't have to say no chin, but he knows how to say extremely uncomfortable, which is very interesting. Merab had a funny hat. Aldo was respected as a legend. Merab's just said he was here for war and all that type of stuff, and he's here to put on a show, and he respects Aldo and stuff like that. And Aldo was getting questions about this and that, and his son being born, and Aljo potentially being next, who was in the arena. Aljo got booed by the Salt Lake City crowd, which is, I guess, just a take on his personality, but I don't know. I think people just don't like him with the way he won the belt and don't really remember too much of Aljo since then, because that's like the big moment that he had in his career that made all the headlines. But they were all booing Aljo when they heard him. And in the face-offs, I guess we can talk about that. Aldo's way bigger than Merab. Merab's a little thicker. He had a cool suit on as well, a nice little outfit on. I guess it's some kind of traditional vintage, heritage-based garms. So that was interesting. Aldo's a big guy, of course. And then Paulo Costa, Luke Rockhold had some things to say. And Saturday night, Costa was saying, we'll find out Saturday night, keep this energy. And all that type of stuff. And Costa's actually pretty big compared to Rockhold. I thought Rockhold was going to be a little bit taller. But he's about an inch taller than Paulo Costa. And Costa's a big guy himself. So that was interesting. And then, of course, you've got the main event, Usman versus Edwards. And yeah, Edwards is massive. He had trainers on, like, are going to give him a bit of a pump. But he's at least about 2 inches taller than Kamaru Usman. So it'd be interesting to see how Usman deals with that range. I think he's going to deal with it quite badly and stuff like that. So we'll see how things go with that type of matchup. But I'm really looking forward to this fight, man. Dana White was rim-jobbing Usman about being great, as he does every press conference he gets. And all this type of stuff. And that was mainly the press conference. But we need Strickland back now, is what we need, more than anything else. Like, I can sit here and say anything I want about this press conference. It wasn't even like a bad press conference compared to others that we've had where fighters have just sat there like, you know, doing it for Jesus Christ. You know, I put on this earth to fight and we're going to fight Saturday night. And all this type of answers that they give. But since Sean Strickland was at a press conference, all others just suffer in comparison. You can't compare the others now. That's the problem. We should never have had Strickland at a press conference. He was too good. He was too good. It was dangerous how good he was at a press conference. Danger levels were high. We should never have had Sean Strickland at a press conference. He's ruined all of them from now on. I used to think I loved it. But now, he's ruined every single one. Because we'll compare it to Strickland going off on Adesanya. And you can't compare how good it was. You just can't. So they'll never compare. And that's the problem. It's like, you know, you go ups and down. Like, having Strickland at a press conference is the equivalent to, at the age of 18, when you're 17, when you're done with school, you inherit $1 billion. You're going to become depressed. There's nothing that can compare to the massive rush at the start, and then you'll never have proper emotional reactions to anything that happens in your life afterwards. That's what it's like. We got it too good, too early. We should have never had Strickland at a press conference. Or we should have Strickland host the press conferences, is how I feel about them. But yeah, it was a cool press conference. Usman, Edwards having their little beef that they had. Rockhold bringing the heat. Costa sort of brushing him off and stuff like that. And then Aldo and Merab. It was interesting. Awkward. But I think that's just Rockhold infesting everyone else with his awkwardness. Oh, and Edwards at one point when Usman said, "What?" said, "What?" And it was funny. It was a funny noise because it's Edwards and he has a funny voice. Usman said, "Oh, what'd you say? What? What? What?" Very interesting noises that come out of Edwards' mouth. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Thank you for watching. Can't wait for the fights. I'm probably going to do like an Aldo Merab prediction video later today as well. And a video on my second channel, the MMA Guru Clips. So yeah, tune into them. And I go live every day for an MMA Q&A as well. So I'm going to start mentioning that in the videos. I'm live every day. See you later. Goodbye. Click the notification bell. Subscribe. All that good stuff. Toodle pip.